Welcome to the fourth official episode of Peace of Mind. I am one of your hosts, Destiny Smith. I'm a first-generation college student, a revolutionary, and a new lock sister.
And I'm Arianna Collins, also known as Artist ASAP, and I'm also a first-generation college student.
So, as always, Arianna, what are we talking about today?
So today's topic is going to be adults, are you listening? Parents, are you listening?
And in your opinion, what is a listening adult?
A listening adult, just someone who's an attentive adult, kind of lets you be you and help you figure out who you are. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you've experienced a listening adult? You only have to give an example, but yes, a yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that gave you the tools to kind of like separate what's listening and what's not? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Give an example about like a non-listening adult.
Okay. So when I was adopted in 2016. I was 14 years old, me and my little sister. I was adopted to my aunt's house, and before, I wasn't necessarily very close to her or her family, and I had come from a situation where I was experiencing trauma every day, violence, like loud music parties. That was kind of my life. And so when I moved with my aunt, I told her, like, initially I was just very sad, and it's because living in her home, before I moved there, I was experiencing trauma every day, so I couldn't, like, really accept the fact that I was going through it, dealing with it. But being in a quiet place, like, just like that, from going from chaos to quietness, it made me very emotionally sad. And I used to tell her, and she used to be like, well, you got, a TV now, Xbox and clothes and all this other stuff, and we got other kids, you shouldn't have no other reason to be sad, because I never had the materialistic things before. I don't really feel like she was listening.
You don't feel like she was listening, right?
Yeah.
She, as in your aunt or your mother?
My aunt.
Aunt. So
At the time.
Yeah. But she got better though, right?
Yeah, we got better over the years.
Okay. I think that's solid. That's good. And so you, first of all, I'm sorry you had to experience everything that you've experienced. Nobody should have to go through anything like that. But it makes us, because it didn't break you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's good, right? But let's talk about where did you feel like you lacked attention? Like, what weren't they paying attention to?
I honestly felt like, and this probably going to be a drag, but I feel like everywhere, because I felt like I was being paid attention to in the fact you need to go to school and you need to do your work. But and the crazy part is, when I was living in the chaos and stuff like that, I was an honor roll student. It wasn't until I got into a safe space that my grades started slipping, and everything started deteriorating. So I felt like at that point, that's where they weren't listening. Just, what does she need to go from here? Like, obviously I needed the material things, a home and things like that, but what do I need to be a student, the good student and a good girl, whatever, from this chaos situation to now?
All right, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. I'll give an example of when I felt like I wasn't being heard. I'm going to start with a more recent example, because, throughout the show, hopefully we can kind of dig, into the layers, right? Mm-hmm. But when I made the decision to leave school, so, okay, I graduated high school. I went to college, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, okay, fighting the line. And I was there from, obviously, my freshman year into my junior year. It was like the end of junior year. And, like, I didn't have the motivation. Mind you, we were still in, like, quarantine. Pandemic affected everything. We were online. I had my own apartment down there. But, like, I didn't leave my room often and stuff like that. And so, but it was after a very traumatic experience that I had that summer. I talked about it on the last show. Having to been hospitalized and things of that nature. So having to, like, get back into my routine, and because I was always like I'm not gonna act like I was the greatest student. I'm a student that's gonna pass. That's it. Yeah. I'm passing. Shooting for the stars is cool, but but, like, telling my mom, like, I don't feel like I'm ready, like, I don't feel like I'm ready to be here. I don't feel like I'm ready to do this work. My attention span is terrible. Like, I have to constantly work on it. Like, all of these things, and the only thing she hearing is excuse, and it's like, this is not an excuse. Like, this is my life we're talking about, and if I'm not the best person for myself, how am I supposed to be the best student? Right? So, yeah, and then transitioning from living in Champaign, being independent, going back to my mom's house at the tender age of, like, 21 at this point, right? I was 21. It was difficult. We weren't listening to each other. I'll be honest about that. But I felt as though my issues were more dire, like they were more immediate, so they should be talked about first. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't feel hurt, and so I started to lash out, like completely lashing out on everything and everybody. Like, you couldn't even look at me for too long because I'm asking you, like, you cool? Like, very just temperamental. I don't know. It was it was a hard time, but it would have been easier if somebody would have listened to me and actually heard what was going on before everything went like downhill. So yeah.
I definitely feel that, and I think that going to college, especially from, environments like we come from, is a very interesting thing because you're almost expected not to ever get there. Yes. And then when it's like, you got there, it's like, well, no more excuses. You there, do it, make it happen. Because I kind of experienced the same thing too, because I was so excited to go to college. All I ever wanted to do was get away. So when I went, I just think that I was diving in head first, and I wanted to go socialize, meet new people, and party and all this other stuff. But also I had to learn how to live on my own and learn how to, deal with. Because college is not just school.
It's not.
It's going into your adult life, dealing with your adult feelings. And especially in that time, I feel like a lot of the things that you thought you healed from your childhood start to recover. And so I think that is very interesting how we don't kind of get that support.
Yeah.
Because, they send us off and they probably do the trunk party and everything. But then it's like once you're there, you're just kind of there, and they don't get that it needs to continue. So I definitely feel that.
No, I agree. My freshman year, it was like I was one of the first generation college students. So I'm like one of the first. My sister went, but she didn't finish. So I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me. And so, of course, they're going to do it big, like you said. We're going to get the trunk party. We're going to get you all the clothes, the shoes, and little stuff like that. Of course, school supply. We're going to buy you the laptop because that's what you need the most. And, it was fun. It made you excited. Like, especially going into a school, like, you feeling prepared. Yeah. Just like you, I was ready to, leave. I have all brothers. It's like, so I... like, I'm ready to leave the house. Live with girls. Like, experience that. Make friendships, lifelong friendships. I wanted to originally become an attorney and things of that nature. And so, of course, we tell our parents that, we tell our family that, and like they all on Facebook excited. Oh yeah, my baby, on the internet excited. But when you're there, like you said, you in a space where like the people that you need the most aren't there.
Yeah.
So like let's talk about how that made you feel. Like let's talk about feelings.
Okay. Well, it made me feel very alone. I think that honestly, from my childhood coming up, I have like developed this thing where I'm so used to being alone or figuring things out alone that now when I have the help or it's offered, I'm not accepting of it. Like I don't want it. Like leave me. Like let me just do me type thing. I felt like I went to a school in Charleston, Illinois, which is a little bit, by Urbana. It's like 45 minutes away, but it's very much more country, very much more like detached from city life or anything like that. So I was just very alone, lost, and I honestly got depressed. And that's why I left. I am still in school. I transferred to Parkland, which is a school in Urbana-Champaign. So... and which is more city-like, and it's good for me. But, out there, I was just very lost. That's
I like
how
that.
I felt lost.
If I had to put a word with the feeling, I would say I felt abandoned to an extent. Like, and I do know I suffer from abandonment issues. Especially like because abandonment issues work both ways. I just want to clarify, like, if somebody leaves, of course you're always going to be fearful that people are going to leave, but you also become a person who's scared to leave. So I think what I was looking for is, my mom to be there a little bit more, because now we can talk on the phone. My mother is always better at texting and talking on the phone than in person, and I know that about her. So I felt like, finally we were going to have that, but we didn't. And like, another thing I want to do was highlight the area that I felt like I needed an adult the most, or my mom the most, right? And it was relationship wise. Because what I've come to learn is that anytime my life has taken a turn, it's usually generally because of a boy. I'll be honest, right? A boy. And so like, had she listened because I first started dating when I was like 15. So had we had a conversation, I'd rather say that, had we had a conversation like, okay, well, expect this, expect that, or like, just kind of putting me in a place to understand what it's like to have a partner. What it is to grow with somebody, or to what is a red flag when you can't grow with somebody. But having to learn all that on my own, it set me back a lot. Like, as we recall, probably, maybe not, but in the last episode when we were talking about like the domestic abuse and the violence and stuff like that, I feel like that's when everybody kind of like saw what I have been saying for years. Like, I need help. Like, I can't deal with somebody else and myself in terms of like anger. We both temperamental. We don't know how to talk to each other, but what happens in most, I'm going to say black households, because I'm black, so that's my experience, is that we don't have those uncomfortable conversations with our daughters or our sons. Like, we don't have those kind of conversations about, like, how to leave. Like, it's always, oh, well, that's on you. Oh, well, you stupid, stuff like that, and just shunning you and not giving you, because they don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So
I think that's very interesting because, honestly, a lot of the problems we encounter within our relationship in our adult life are because of our lack of relationships with our parents and things like that. I often feel like relationships and dating and feeling and stuff like that would be easier for me if I had a relationship with my mom and things like that, because it's hard as hell to have relationships with anybody. Friendship, platonic relationship, when you don't have it with the person who created you.
Yes.
Because it puts you in a space of, well, she made me and I came out of her. And you feel me? And we can't, like, it doesn't matter with anyone else, or it won't ever work with anyone else because it doesn't work with my creator. So I definitely feel that, and I definitely understand that.
And something I like that you mentioned, you said with our creator, like with our mom, that's who we expected the most from. And something I was talking about with the friend was like dads we don't really expect them to be there and to do stuff in our communities. Exactly, because we black.
We know our community is so used to one parent households. So yeah, like when a person be like, oh, my dad wasn't in my life, it's not like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Like, oh, you too?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not okay, and I'm joking, because, like, to make light of it, but we don't expect that, and a lot of times we feel like, because I know I have all brothers, so what they feel is though, like, well, he wasn't there, so I didn't have guidance. But I feel like even though parents can be absent, usually it's the dad, we don't ever kind of highlight the trauma that can still happen with the parent that is there. Because that's who you have the most experiences with. That's who you learn from, or who you don't learn from. So just to clarify, that's why we're kind of, not singling out, but in a way we are moms and things of that nature. Also, we are women. But yeah, no, let's just, I don't know.
I mean, that's our experiences with our moms. So that's why I feel like that was our adult in our life, our moms. So,
you're right.
Yeah.
So do you feel like your aunt maybe guided you a little bit better? So
yeah, I did want to get into that. So me and my aunt, we had to go through, like, I want to say our relationship got good now, today, and I'm 20 years old. And I feel like because it was a lot of resentment between our relationship that we created together, because I was stepping in a situation where I felt like I wasn't being understood. I'm 14 years old and I'm young, and I just need you to hear me and feel what I'm saying. Like, and I ain't gonna lie, like, she's not this type of person anymore, but I used to be like, I'm depressed, and she was that parent, like, depressed them dishes, depressed them, and it used to hurt me so bad, bro, because coming from a situation where I'm used to just being tall and stagnant and not telling my mother how I feel, and then I came to a place where I thought I was in a comfortable enough space, and then also when I was 15 the first time, my aunt kicked me out, and she kicked me out, no phone, no clothes, everything that she said anything that I bought, leave here, and I was 15, so everything, and I was homeless for 3 months.
Wow.
And, completely by myself, 15 years old, and I experienced a lot of trauma within that, and so I came when she let me back into her house. It was before my junior year, and she told me before I came back, I'm letting you in because this is your make it or break year. She said you either gonna go somewhere or you ain't, and because junior year, that's your year. And so I came back, and I hated being there. I was so sad because I knew I was only there because she wanted me to get the on type stuff. But I did what I needed to do, and I placed top 3 SAT score in my school. I made the honor roll. I got 28 acceptance, $368,000 in scholarship money, and I got on. And I'm still getting paid to attend school today. But the thing is, I felt like we had to go through all this bad stuff for me to be like reach that breaking point that you kind of brought up. And when I was like 18 during quarantine, 17, I had left before school. I just ran away. I'm like, I'm done, because I was so sad, and that was my breaking point. And at that point, she started listening. At that point, she's like, you know what, let's sit down, let's talk, because before, I feel like she kind of took my power. She was 15. I was 15. She took everything from me. But at 17, it was just something in me. Like, I was so sad. And I was like, I would rather sleep under a rail than to be in this house sad like this. Like, I was suicidal, bro. I will not lie to you. And once I left and I started doing stuff on my own and I started making it happen by myself, for myself, I kind of pushed her all the way out, and not just her, my family, everything. Like, I was so disconnected from everybody, and that's when they started listening to me. Exactly. Once I stopped.
Yep. It's always when we reclaim our power and we take that back. That's when people want to start listening, because then they notice, like, she really doesn't need me for real. Like, she's choosing to be here, and it's a choice, right? At the end of the day. And like she said, like, you'll make it or break it year. I find that's the most common. People always start to listen in and like pay closer attention when they feel like you're going to elevate, because everybody wants to be a part of that elevation
and take credit for your
elevation. Yes. And another good thing, though, not good thing, but a good point that you said is, like, you got put out at 15. And I think that a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners, especially around our age, our peers, could relate to that, because of the fact that that's what black parents do sometimes. Like, oh, well, you don't want to listen to me. You don't want to listen to my rules. Get out of my house. Right. Like, instead of sending you off to like a, I don't know, like a nonprofit or a friend's house and stuff like that, they'd rather you be on the street. And that's tough. I mean, that happened to me as well before. My mom, like, when I was lashing out, she was just like, I'd rather, you not be in this house, you not be nowhere around me. But she kind of like constantly reminded me that she is the only person that's there. So it was kind of like a mental warfare to an extent. Like, like trying to take our power to an extent. But like you did, I got up and I left. Like, I don't have to be here. I'm choosing to be here. And I think that's big.
Yeah.
So, yeah, adults should listen more. Adults should care more. And not just about the direction that we're going financially, but about where we are mentally and emotionally. Because that's the biggest thing. I'm not going to lie, I find it very difficult to become successful financially if my mental and my emotional is all over the place. Like, today I was kind of dealing with, a little something before I came in, but I took a deep breath before I walked in the door so I can handle my business. You see what I'm saying? But they don't necessarily invest into our emotional and mental well-being, because I don't think anybody invested into theirs. And so it's a constant cycle of, oh, well, you'll figure it out. I did. You'll get over it. I did. Like, like you said, depress them dishes. Like, there's no such thing as anxiety and depression in the household. And it's been times where I pointed out to my own mother, like, Mom, you too suffer with depression and anxiety. Like, I see the signs because I know what it's like. But nobody ever gave them the word for, like, oh, that's anxiety. That's depression. And especially in our communities, going to the doctor for something like that is crazy. Like, that's a whole medical bill that you got to pay for. So, yeah, I think it's just a constant broken cycle.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight and to understand, too, that our parents and the adults that we have in our life are just doing the best that they can do with what they were given. So just like, we had to experience certain traumas because we had lack of thereof, they did too. And so now they're just trying to make the best of what they were given, but they weren't exactly given anything to, you know what I'm saying? So, and I think it's also important to acknowledge how the adults in our life have made us feel. So when we become the adults in our children's lives or our nieces and our nephews, that we can kind of go back to that, okay, like, let me be the person that I needed. Because that's another thing about, I remember I was talking to you in the last episode about, I don't really know if I want a family and kids like that. Like, I'm so scared of that. And I used to be so scared of that because of the fact I know how one adult, you can change a kid's whole life mentally, like where they going, everything, and that's for good or bad. And I know that I'm not perfect, so I kind of like, no, forget all that, because I don't want to be responsible. But I think that when the time is right and stuff like that, and I'm older, I am going to be a good parent. I feel of like course. Because and it's kind of good to see what not to do, because now we know what to do. So, exactly. It's a blessing and a curse.
I think what you said, though, is very responsible. Like, you're afraid, and so you're not going to be out there putting yourself out there to bear children or to mother somebody, and, you still kind of mothering yourself. Me, too. I feel the exact same way. I don't know. At first, I was super eager, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to start a family. Woo, woo, woo. I made it to 22, no kids. In Chicago, that's big, And then, like, I had a conversation with Bianca. I had a conversation with you. And although, like, neither one of y'all told me what to do, like, I took it, like, what resonated. And I decided that why not make it easier on myself and my children, right? Like, why not become the person I need to be for me first, and so that I could become that person for them, right? To give them the things that I didn't have. to give them the conversations I didn't have that I wish I had, you know, to do the birds and the bees, the, you know, life lessons, what to expect from people who don't look like you know, same skin color, like, you know what I'm saying? Just give them the whole rundown, because I don't feel like I had that from the person I wanted it from necessarily. I did find that guidance, but like I said, I had to go look for it. So yeah, I think that was big. You know, anything else you want to add?
No, I just think that, you know, viewers should just go away with this with understanding both sides, because I feel like, you know, we kind of came into this just explaining the side of the teen or the kid at the time, but it's a both side thing. It's a two-way road. So understand that, accept that, and kind of try. Maybe you can be the facilitator in some of these conversations, especially if you older now, because I always had this stigma like, you the dope, you grown, you 40, you had to talk to me. But like I said, I had took myself to find the resources that I need, and they didn't have them. So now I could give them to them. So yeah, you know, it never hurts to reach out, try a little bit. Yeah. But yeah.
I like how you put that though, because we kind of at some point do start to teach our parents, like, you know, start giving them the words and the tools that we got to go find, and essentially help each other, right? That's what the goal is. We would hope so. But yeah, I think that was a really amazing episode.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But until next time, thank you for viewing.